I get asked a lot about UM arbitration, uninsured motorist arbitration. And if there's a third party that has some level of insurance, but it's not enough, then the underinsured motorist arbitration. And I want to talk about that for a few minutes because there's a lot of ways to maximize the effectiveness of your UM arbitration cases and get top dollar. So understand that if a defendant, third-party defendant, has no insurance, as long as you can prove that, through an SR-19 form or a statement from the carrier or something, you can then immediately start the UM arbitration process. If a third party has some level of insurance, you cannot make an underinsured motorist claim until the full amount of the third party insurance is paid. So I see a lot of times where our clients have, let's say, a $250 UM policy, and the person who rear-ended them had a $15,000 policy. You cannot make a claim for the remaining $235,000 of underinsured motorists unless you get all $15,000, not even $14,999. In fact, I caught a lawyer who was about to 998 a 15 policy for $14,999 because they didn't understand that you could do it for 15 so that they could get to UIM. And I'm like, that $1 prevents you from moving on. So that's really important. But let's talk about now either UM or you've successfully gotten all of the underlying third-party coverage and you have a UIM, an underinsured claim. What we do, which is to me by far the best practice, is the very first time that we communicate to anyone about an UM case is a letter that demands arbitration, that provides the name of 3 or 4 arbitrators that we would accept, and a demand that one of these arbitrators is selected or another one is proposed to be selected. And we give a very short time frame, 2 to 3 weeks. We explain that if an arbitrator is not selected in those 3 weeks, we will then file a lawsuit and move to compel to set an arbitrator and an arbitration date. Now, that gets the ball rolling immediately, right? What I see most people do is they send a letter that says, this is a demand for UM arbitration. And then they start negotiating. And the carriers know that if they put a little bit of meat out there, that most lawyers will say, well, let's not arbitrate. Let's not pick an arbitrator. Let's not spend all that time. Let's try to settle the case, right? Well, first of all, if you've done that, you've telegraphed right away that you think the case is worth less than the remaining policies of the UM or the UIM. So you could never make a policy demand and be legitimate if you're willing to negotiate before you pick an arbitrator or whatever. That's just not going to happen. Oh, well, maybe they'll pay the policy. Yeah, maybe, but more likely you've telegraphed that you don't want to go to arbitration and you will accept less than the policy. Secondly, that negotiation oftentimes will take months and months and months, and then 9 months, 10 months later, they finally give you a crappy little offer, and now you're all pissed off and you're ready to arbitrate. Well, now you've wasted 10 months. There is absolutely no reason why you couldn't have had those 10 months of negotiation happen while the clock is ticking with an arbitrator getting an arbitration date. Now you've got to start anew 10 months later. And I see this as a trap for the unwary. I see this where people talk themselves out of doing it the right way, that I think is the right way, because they're afraid that they don't want to do the extra work. They're afraid that they don't know how to arbitrate, that they don't know what to do. They're afraid they're going to piss off the carrier, and they could have gotten the policy, but now the carrier is angry. And what I see is the absolute reverse happening. The unintended telegraphing of fear, of uncertainty, of a willingness to negotiate for less. And what you don't realize is that if that case, a good settlement on that case was some number, let's just call it $200,000, you will get that $200,000 way faster by forcing an arbitration and maybe settling that case before the arbitrator is picked, but showing what kind of leopard you are. In 3 weeks, you might get that $200,000 if you negotiate without the arbitration, but maybe that's 10 months away. Your client's not nearly as happy. Your cash flow is not nearly as good. You haven't telegraphed the kind of lawyer that you are properly. And all of that is simply the letter that you send at the beginning sets forth the parameters of how you will conduct yourself. When you follow through with that, it says everything. And the more of these that you have, the faster of these that you can resolve for real money for your clients. Helps your firm, helps your cash flow. Most importantly, helps your clients. Happy clients refer you more work. And it's all about how do you approach UM and UIM arbitration from an aggressive, straightforward way or not. Now, if you need a copy of my letter, I'm happy to send it to you. You email me. The link here is in the bio. If you need the letter, the link here is in the video description. I'm happy to send you whatever I have and to give advice and reach out to help you edit and figure out what's best for your firm.